So, DeFi. It's the future of finance, right? And Uniswap v4. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal in the DeFi world. We're going to dive deep today and really unpack why everyone's so hyped about this upgrade. Like, what's it going to mean for everyday users,
What's wild is how central Uniswap has become to the whole DeFi space. Like, if we can wrap our heads around V4, it's kind of like peeking into the future of where DeFi is headed.
Totally. It's like, imagine you know your neighbor, the one who keeps to themselves, and then bam, you find out they've been building a whole rocket ship in their garage. Uniswap's kind of like that. Okay, so quick recap for anyone who's just tuning in. Uniswap, it's an automated market maker, or AMM, basically lets you trade crypto directly, no need for those old school exchanges. The crazy thing, Uniswap's evolution. V1 came out in 2018, and now, boom, V4.
Yeah, and don't think this is just some minor update, like a fresh coat of paint, this V4 white paper we're diving into. It's like a whole new blueprint for decentralized trading.
Okay, so full disclosure, the white paper's pretty technical, but our mission today is to decode all that jargon, make it make sense. And trust me, there's some super cool stuff in there. First up, something called hooks. Ever wished you could tweak your trades on Uniswap, add some, some personality to them? Well, V4's got you covered. Developers can use these hooks to build custom features right into the system.
It's kind of like instead of buying a suit off the rack, you get one tailor-made. Fits you perfectly. Devs can build these really unique functions right into the Uniswap pools. Imagine setting up a trade that executes over time so it doesn't mess with the market price. Or on-chain limit orders that just automatically fill at your price. That's the kind of stuff hooks can do.
That's wild. It's like giving users way more control, right? But wait, there's more. Uniswap v4 is ditching the old system, separate contracts for each token pair. Instead, they're moving everything to one giant mega efficient contract. They call it the singleton. Kind of surprised they didn't go with super contract or something catchier,
Right. But hey, names aside, the singleton is all about efficiency. Think of it this way. Right now, every trade on Uniswap is like sending a separate package. With the singleton, it's more like one big efficient shipment. Faster trading and way cheaper fees.
And cheaper is always a win, especially with crypto, right? Now, this next bit gets kind of techy, but stick with me, it's cool. It's called flash accounting. Basically, it makes the whole trading process super streamlined, crazy fast, and efficient.
Like, picture this. Yeah. You're at a restaurant, right? And instead of paying for each dish as it comes out, you just run a tab. Everything on one bill at the end. That's kind of how flash accounting works for trading on Uniswap v4.
Okay, now that's an analogy I can get behind. Way tastier than all those technical terms. So faster trades, lower fees, sounds like a win-win. But the white paper, it also mentions this thing called custom accounting. And that's where things get really interesting for the developer crowd.
You got it. With custom accounting, developers can actually create totally unique trading experiences and liquidity providing experiences all within Uniswap. It's kind of like, let's say you were really into how Uniswap v2 worked, right? But obviously you want to use v4 with all the latest upgrades. Well, with custom accounting, you could, in theory, create a hook that basically replicates the v2 experience inside the v4 framework.
Whoa, so it's like having the best of both worlds. You get your old school vibe, but with all the new v4 tech running under the hood.
Exactly. No need to reinvent the wheel, just build a better engine.
Yeah. I like the way you think. Okay. This episode is a crash course in mind-blowing tech, I gotta say. Speaking of which, the paper also mentions something called ERC-6909. Sounds kind of like a Star Wars droid, but apparently it's important for all this to work.
Yeah, don't let the name throw you off. ERC-6909, it's just a new token standard. But it's meant to make managing your tokens way easier within the whole Uniswap system. Basically streamlines moving tokens in and out, which again means smoother, cheaper transactions for everyone.
Okay, so sensing a theme here. Efficiency is the name of the game. But gotta ask, with all these radical changes, are there any downsides? The paper mentions governance a few times, and that always makes me think things could get, a little messy.
Yeah, that's a smart question for sure. Right. It's something to be aware of. Good news is, the Uniswap team, they've learned a lot from the previous versions. Especially V3, which had more of a hands-on approach to governance. With V4, they're going more hands-off, really focused on empowering developers and letting innovation, run wild.
Sounds great in theory, but doesn't that also mean users need to be extra careful about which liquidity pools they're, messing with?
Totally. Transparency and user awareness are more important now than ever before. It's like exploring a new frontier, right? Huge potential for rewards. But you got to know the risks. Always do your own research before you jump into any new pools or strategies.
DYR, as they say in the crypto world. Okay, so you know I love getting into the nitty-gritty. And there are a couple things in this paper that caught my eye. First up, time-weighted average price orders, or TWAM for short. Sounds like a much smoother way to do those big trades.
It totally is.
You-
TWAM is a game changer because it lets you execute those large orders gradually over time so they don't shock the system. This is huge for anyone making big moves because it means you avoid those crazy price swings you get when you try to move a ton of crypto all at once.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's like instead of cannonballing into a pool, you're slowly wading in so you don't make a huge splash, much less disruption.
Exactly. A much smoother trading experience, especially when you're working with, large amounts.
Love it. Okay, other thing I wanted to ask about the paper mentions integrating, get this, a Uniswap V2 hook. Which, I mean, isn't that kind of meta, like building the past into the future?
It is a little bit, right? Kind of feels like something out of Back to the Future, building the past into the future.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think it just shows how flexible this whole V4 architecture really is. Like, you could actually recreate parts of the older Uniswap systems if you wanted to, all within this new V4 framework.
So it's like, okay, wild analogy time. It's like those classic car buffs who rebuild vintage cars, but under the hood, it's all electric engine, cutting edge tech, the best of both worlds, you know?
Exactly. Why start from scratch when you can just soup up the engine, right?
Right. Love it. Okay, my brain's kind of fried from all this tech talk, gotta be honest. We went from AM's 101 to Uniswap v4 architecture. Whoa. But let's bring it back down to earth for a sec. What does this all mean for the average person listening right now?
The million-dollar question. I think the biggest takeaway here is Uniswap v4. It's not just an upgrade. It's like a whole new way of thinking about decentralized trading.
Paradigm shift. Gotta love those.
But really, what makes you say that?
Well, think about everything we've talked about. Cheaper trades, faster, developers building custom strategies. It's way more user-friendly. This could be what brings DeFi to a whole new crowd.
So it's not just for the crypto nerds anymore. It could actually make DeFi mainstream. It's definitely possible. And the really exciting part is we're just getting started here. The white paper, it's basically a giant invitation for developers to come and experiment, build crazy new stuff. The future of DeFi is right there.
Okay, so let's say I'm listening, I'm a developer, and I'm like, let's do this. Where do I even begin with V4?
That's the cool part. You can kind of choose your own adventure, right?
All right.
The white paper gets into all the details, super technical, and they'll have a software development kit and SDK to make building on V4 easier. I'd start there, personally.
So SDK first, get those creative juices flowing, then dive deep into the white paper. Makes sense. But back to our listeners who maybe aren't coding whizzes, what's one thing they should watch out for with V4? Something that'll directly affect them, their DeFi experience.
The white paper talks about how V4 could lead to all sorts of new ways to provide liquidity, different strategies. That's huge because it changes how people earn on their crypto. Instead of just basic pools, imagine strategies that adapt to the market or even have totally different risk levels and rewards. That's the kind of stuff V4 could unlock.
So for all you DeFi folks, keep your eyes peeled on those liquidity pools. There might be some serious earning potential there. This deep dive has been wild, and honestly, I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
And isn't that the beauty of it all? Uniswap v4 isn't some static thing. It's like the launch pad for the next generation of DeFi. It's going to be exciting to see what happens.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And to all our listeners, we want to hear from you. What's got you hyped about Uniswap v4? Hit us up. We might even feature your thoughts in a future episode. Until then, keep exploring DeFi, and we'll see you in the metaverse.